Imagine 91 billion light years traveled like that.
Your father is lost in the universe.
My father's alive.
We believe he is. And we're here to help you find him.
This is my favorite planet in the entire galaxy. No offense to Earth.
You're going to be tested.
Run!
Every step of the way.
Get away from him!
Be a warrior.
Do you trust me? I trust you!
A Wrinkle in Time, rated PG.
So, what if? What if we are not just in the universe, but the universe is within all of us?
Think about quantum entanglement, where two electrons once bonded together, love if you will, but suddenly separated by a galaxy, but somehow just as connected as unbroken union despite being galaxies apart.
And our most recent calculations that these fields connect us to other dimensions outside of the limitations of space and time. Imagine that. Rather than enduring the oppressive rules of time and space, we could wrinkle it 91 billion light years. Travel like that. Hi, I am Minerva, and I will going to tell you about the movie A Wrinkle in Time. This is a film analysis and of the same time a literary analysis, a science fiction genre. A Wrinkle in Time is a novel written by Madeleine L'Engle. First, I'm going to read to you some of its key facts about A Wrinkle in Time. So, A Wrinkle in Time is written by Madeleine L'Engle. It is written in 1959 to 1960. So, this is a novel that's derived from a movie. And it was written in New York City and was published in 1962. This is a literary, this is a post-war American literature and science fiction genre. The setting is in Earth, the planet Kamazots, the universe. Climax. Meg saves Charles Wallace, her younger brother, from the clutches of it by simply loving him. The antagonist were the Black Thing, the Darkness, or the It. The point of view is limited third-person narrative from Meg Murray's point of view. Biography of the author. Madeleine L'Engle. Madeleine L'Engle Camp was an American writer of fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and young adult fiction, including A Wrinkle in Time and its sequels. A Wind in the Door, A Swiftly Tilting Planet, Many Waters, and Unacceptable Time. Her works reflect both her Christian faith and her strong interest in modern science. Madeleine L'Engle wrote her first story when she was 5 years old. She did not perform well at the NYC private school she attended, and spent the subsequent years at different boarding schools and traveling extensively with her parents, who disagreed about how she ought to be raised. France and Switzerland were among the countries she lived in her youth. Her father died in 1935 while she was living at a boarding school in South Carolina. In 1937, she attended Smith College and graduated 4 years later, cum laude. The next year, once she had moved to New York City, she met her husband, actor Hodge Franklin, when she had a role in Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, and they married 4 years later. She pursued a career in the theater before publishing her first book, The Small Rain, in 1945, a novel about an aspiring pianist who chooses her art over personal relationships. After writing her first children's book, the title is And Both Were Young, in 1949, she began a series of juvenile fictional works about the Austen family. Meet the Austins in 1960. The Moon by the Night in 1963. The 24 Days Before Christmas in 1964. The Young Unicorns in 1968 rather, and A Ring of Endless Light in 1980. Madeleine L'Engle was chiefly a children's author known for such works as Meet the Austins and A Wrinkle in Time. Madeleine L'Engle died on September 6, 2007, at a nursing home in Litchfield, Connecticut. She left behind more than 60 works, ranging from science fiction to memoirs to reflections on religion. Her final work, The Joys of Love, hit bookstore shelves in 2008. Today, L'Engle lives on through her work. Her best-known novel, A Wrinkle in Time, remains popular with readers and is now a major motion picture directed by Ava DuVernay and starring Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and Mindy Kaling. Plot summary: Meg Murray is a 13-year-old, plain-looking girl who can't seem to get along at school. Despite unusual intelligence and a wonderful family, impatient by nature, she quickly gets into trouble with her teachers, though the real source of her unhappiness is her missing father, who vanished a year ago on mysterious government business. Meg has two younger, perfectly normal twin brothers, Sandy and Dennis, which in novel exists, but in a movie it doesn't exist. 10-year-old and extraordinary 5-year-older brother, Charles Wallace. Only Charles Wallace exists in the movie. Charles Wallace, who has intelligence and intuition beyond his years. Their mother, Mrs. Murray, is a PhD like her husband, Mr. Murray, and while she tries to focus on her work and on the children, she is very unhappy and worried by her husband's absence. One stormy night, an old, funnily dressed woman shows up at the Murray's house, Mrs. Whatsit. Though Charles seems to know her, Mrs. Whatsit has come to deliver a message to Mrs. Murray. There is such a thing as a tesseract. Meg and Charles are mystified by the incident and go to find Mrs. Whatsit the next day for answers. She's staying at a supposedly haunted house just off their property. On their way there, they come across Calvin O'Keefe, an athlete and popular boy who Meg knows only vaguely from school. It turns out that, like Charles and Meg, he is unusually intelligent and possesses a gift for communication. Though at first suspicious of him, Charles thinks he must be a good egg and allows Calvin to come along with him and Meg. Mrs. Whatsit is not there, but they meet her friend Mrs. Who, and then the three children head home to the Murrays to have dinner. Calvin straight away feels at home with the Murrays. After Calvin has put Charles down for bed, he takes Meg for a walk in the garden behind the Murray's house, and suddenly Charles, Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Rich, their third companion, are there. The Mrs. W's tesser the children to another planet. Tessering is a painful but quick way to travel through space and time, A Wrinkle in Time, where they show them the Black Thing, a shadow that has fallen across many parts of the universe, representing evil. The Black Thing has captured Mr. Murray, and the children must save him. They then tesser to another planet, where they met the Happy Medium, an oracle-like woman who shows them in her crystal ball a way in which the darkness can be destroyed. A star can give its life to destroy the Black Thing, and that is precisely what Mrs. Whatsit did. The time for action has come. Meg, Calvin, and Charles tesser to the planet Kamazots, an evil planet entirely taken over by the Black Thing, where Mr. Murray is. On Kamazots, everyone is exactly alike. Every house, child, and adult is almost exactly the same. This is because every individual is controlled by it, an enormous brain which thinks for everyone on the planet, destroying individuality. The children, whom the Mrs. W's can no longer accompany, find Mr. Murray and rescue him from his prison. But in the process, Charles has his mind taken over by it and becomes its minion. This evil Charles takes his father, sister, and Calvin to it, and Mr. Murray is forced to tether himself, Meg and Calvin away to save their own minds. The three of them land on another planet in Kamazot's system, and Meg is instantly enraged with her father for leaving Charles. She has, however, been physically, mentally wounded by tethering through the Black Thing and the tentacled natives of that planet, especially Ant Beast, tend to her until she is well. A council is held with the tentacled natives, the Mrs. W's and Calvin, Meg and Mr. Murray, and Meg sees that only she can save Charles from it, since she knows and loves Charles best of all of them. She tethers with Mrs. Witch back to Kamazots and manages to free Charles from its grasp by simply looking at him and loving him. For love is the only one thing it cannot stand. They then tether back to the Murray's backyard, where they find Calvin and Mr. Murray also returned. Mrs. Murray and the twins, upon hearing the commotion, ran outside and a very family reunion ensues. Elements. Setting. New England. The novel is set in and reflects the mores and technology of a small town in New England in the early 1960s, the time when the book was written. Meg, Charles Wallace, and Calvin may live on Earth, but their quest to save Mr. Murray takes them traveling across space and time. So the when and where of this book can get a little complicated. The main characters visit 5 planets total, briefly described here. The first stop in their journey is Uriel, the 3rd planet of the star Malak in the spiral nebula Mizar 101. Uriel is a beautiful planet that is golden with light and covered with grass, flowers, and mountains, as beautiful as it may be, though they are not only there for sightseeing. It is on Uriel that the children are first shown the Black Thing. The next stop takes them to a planet in Orion's belt, where the happy medium lives. Perhaps the most remarkable characteristic of this planet is it lacks characteristics. Let's go to the characters! Meg Murray. Meg is a 13-year-old girl who is a misfit at school, despite her unusual intelligence that the teachers can't seem to appreciate. The main source of her unhappiness, however, comes from the fact that her brilliant scientist father disappeared a number of years ago and has made no contact with his loving, close-knit family since. With the help of her younger brother Charles Wallace and newfound friend Calvin, she embarks on an adventure with Mrs. What's-It and Co. to save her father, who is trapped on another planet by the power of darkness. Meg Murray in real life, she is Storm Reed. Charles Wallace Murray, Meg's extraordinarily intelligent 5-year-old younger brother who is capable of reading minds and understanding other creatures in a way that none of the other Murray children can. Meg's gifted 5-year-old brother, Charles Wallace's talents extend from advanced factual and scientific knowledge to an unusual ability to penetrate and understand the minds of others. His assurance of his abilities proves to be his vulnerability, as he believes he can mentally fight it and ends up being absorbed into it until Meg's love brings him back. Calvin O'Keefe. Calvin, a 14-year-old boy who's so smart. He's in 11th grade and a talented athlete at that. Enters the Murray's lives in the most unexpected way at the beginning of the novel and is practically one of the family at the end, though he may mean something more to Meg. He has a talent for communication, which comes in handy on other planets, and his warm love for Meg and Charles Wallace, in addition to his courage, sustains the group as they fight against the terrible darkness. Let's go, Mrs. Murray. Mrs. Murray is a beautiful, brilliant scientist with a wonderful family. Mrs. Murray does her best to lovingly take care of her children while her husband has mysteriously disappeared on government business and hides her unhappiness at his absence. The children love her dearly in return and are partly inspired by their love for their mother and their knowledge of her unhappiness in their quest to save their father.